considering Lord Krishna invincible, that foremost demon, Pralamba, quickly carried Balarama far beyond the spot where he was supposed to put his passenger down. Yeah. Demon is running away with the deity. Purport. Pralamba wanted to carry Balarama out of Lord Krishna's sight so that he could cruelly attack him. Text 26. As the great demon carried Balarama, the Lord became as heavy as massive Mount Sumeru, and Pralamba had to slow down. He then resumed his actual form, an effulgent body that was covered with golden ornaments and that resembled a cloud flashing with lightning and carrying the moon. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here the demon, Pralamba, is compared to a cloud. His golden ornaments to lightning within that cloud, and Lord Balaram to the moon shining through it. Great demons can assume various forms by exerting their mystic power. But when the Lord's spiritual potency curtails their power, they can no longer maintain an artificial form and must again manifest their actual demoniac body. Lord Balaram suddenly became as heavy as a great mountain, and although the demon tried to carry him high on his shoulders, he could not go on. Text 27. And when Lord Balarama, who carries the plow weapon, saw the gigantic body of the demon as he moved swiftly in the sky, with his blazing eyes, fiery hair, terrible teeth, reaching toward his scolding brows, and an amazing effulgence generated by his armlets, crown, and earrings, the Lord seemed to become a little frightened. Just a little, I'd be very frightened. Purport. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains Lord Baladeva's so-called fear as follows. Balarama was acting out the role of an ordinary cowherd boy, and to maintain the mood of this pastime, he appeared slightly disturbed by the horrible demoniac body. Also, because the demon had appeared as a cowherd boyfriend of Krishna's, and because Krishna had accepted him as a friend, Baladeva was slightly apprehensive about killing him. Balarama could also have been worried that since this cowherd boy was actually a demon in disguise, at that very moment, another such demon might have been attacking Lord Krishna himself. Thus, the omniscience and omnipotent, Supreme Lord Balarama exhibited the pastime of becoming slightly nervous in the presence of the horrible demon Columba. Text 28. Remembering the actual situation, the fearless Balarama understood that the demon was trying to kidnap him and take him away from his companions. The Lord then became furious and struck the demon's head with his hard fist, just as Indra, the king of the demigod, strikes a mountain with his thunderbolt weapon. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Balarama's powerful fist came crashing down upon the demon's head, just as a huge lightning bolt comes crashing into a mountain, cracking its stone surface into pieces. The words Vihaya Sartam Iva may also be divided Vihayasa Artam Iva, meaning that the demon was flying in the sky on the cosmic path, Vihayas, with the purpose of carrying off Balarama, who was his Artam, or object of pursuit. Text 29. Thus smashed by Balarama's fist, Columba's head immediately cracked open. The demon vomited blood from his mouth and lost all consciousness. And then, with a great noise, he fell lifeless on the ground, like a mountain devastated by Indra. Text 30. The cowherd boys were most astonished to see how the powerful Balarama had killed the demon, Columba, and they exclaimed, "Excellent! Excellent!" Text 31. They offered Balarama profuse benedictions and then glorified him, who deserves all glorification. Their minds overwhelmed with ecstatic, they embraced him as if he had come back from the dead. Text 32. The sinful Columba, having been killed, the demigods felt extremely happy, and they showered flower garlands upon Lord Balarama and praised the excellence of his deed. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, as Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Balarama Slays the Demon Columba. And now we're going on to chapter 19, Swallowing the Forest Fire. This chapter describes how Lord Krishna saved the cows and the cowherd from a great fire in the Munjaranya forest. Munjaranya forest. One day, the cowherd boys became absorbed in sporting and allowed the cows to wander into a dense forest. Suddenly, a forest fire blazed up, and to escape its flames, the cows took refuge in a grove of sharp canes. When the cowherd boys missed their animals, they went searching for them, following their hoof prints and the trail of blades of grass and other plants they had trampled or had broken with their teeth. Finally, the boys found the cows and removed them from the cane forest. Oh boy, cane forest. But by that time, the forest fire had grown strong and was threatening both the boys and the cows. Thus, the cowherd boys took shelter of Shri Krishna, the master of all mystic power, who told them to close their eyes. They did so, and in a moment he had swallowed up the fierce forest fire and brought them all back to the Bandira tree mentioned in the last chapter. Seeing this wonderful display of mystic potency, the cowherd boys thought Krishna must be a demigod, and they began to praise him. Then they all returned home. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're reading now chapter 19, Swallowing the Forest Fire. Text number 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, while the cowherd boys were completely absorbed in playing, their cows wandered far away. They hungered for more grass, and with no one to watch them, they entered a dense forest. Text 2. Passing from one part of the great forest to another, the goats, cows, and buffalo eventually entered an area overgrown with sharp canes. The heat of a nearby forest fire made them thirsty, and they cried out in distress. Text number 3. Not seeing the cows before them, Krishna, Rama, and their cowherd friends suddenly felt repentant for having neglected them. The boys searched all around but could not discover where they had gone. Text number 4. Then the boys began tracing out the cows' path by noting their footprints and the blades of grass the cows had broken with their hoofs and teeth. All the cowherd boys were in great anxiety because they had lost their source of livelihood. Text number 5. Within the Munja forest, the cowherd boys finally found their valuable cows who had lost their way and were crying. Then the boys, thirsty and tired, herded the cows onto the path back home. Okay, nothing like home sweet home. Text 6. The Supreme Personality of Godhead called out to the animals in a voice that resounded like a rumbling cloud. Hearing the sound of their own names, the cows were overjoyed and called out to the Lord in reply. Text number 7. Suddenly, a great forest fire appeared on all sides, threatening to destroy all the forest creatures. Like a chariot driver, the wind swept the fire onward, and terrible sparks shot in all directions. Indeed, the great fire extended its tongues of flame toward all moving and non-moving creatures. Purport by starring Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Just as Krishna, Balarama, and the cowherd boys were about to take their cows back home, the forest fire previously mentioned raged out of control and surrounded all of them. Text number 8. As the cows and cowherd boys stared at the forest fire attacking them on all sides, they became fearful. The boys then approached Krishna and Balarama for shelter, just as those who are disturbed by fear of death approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The boys addressed them as follows. Text number 9. Krishna Krishna Mahavira, Hey Rama, Mogha Vikara, Vikrana, Davagnina Da Hayamanan Prap Nans Tratum Arhata. The cowherd boys said, O Krishna, Krishna, most powerful one, O Rama, you whose palace never fails, please save your devotees who are about to be burned by this forest fire and have come to take shelter of you. Text number 10. Krishna, certainly, your own friends shouldn't be destroyed, O knower of the nature of all things. We have accepted you as our Lord, and we are souls surrendered unto you. Text 11. Sukadeva Goswami said, hearing these pitiful words from his friend, the Supreme Lord Krishna told him, just close your eyes and do not be afraid. Purport. This verse clearly reveals the simple, sublime relationship between Krishna and his pure devotees. The absolute truth, the Supreme Almighty Lord, is actually a young, blissful cowherd boy named Krishna. God is youthful, and his mentality is playful. When he saw that his beloved friends were terrified of the forest fire, he simply told them to close their eyes and not be afraid. Then Lord Krishna acted as described in the next verse. Text number 12. All right, the boys replied, and immediately closed their eyes. Then the Supreme Lord, the master of all mystic power, opened his mouth and swallowed the terrible fire, saving his friend from danger. Purport. The cowherd boys were suffering from extreme fatigue, hunger, thirst, and were about to be consumed by a horrible forest fire. All this is indicated here by the word Shirat. Text number 13. The cowherd boys opened their eyes and were amazed to find not only that they and their cows had been saved from the terrible fire, but that they had all been brought back to the Bandira tree. Text 14. When the cowherd boys saw that they had been saved from the forest fire by the Lord's mystic power, which is manifested by his internal codes, they began to think that Krishna must be a demigod. Purport: the cowherd boys of Vrindavana simply loved Krishna as their only friend, an exclusive object of devotion. To increase their ecstasy, Krishna displayed to them his mystic potency and saved them from a terrible forest fire. The cowherd boys could never give up their ecstatic, loving friendship with Krishna. Therefore, rather than considering Krishna God, after they saw his extraordinary power, they thought that perhaps he was a demigod. But since Lord Krishna was their beloved friend, they were on the same level with him. And thus they thought that they too must be demigods. In this way, Krishna's cowherd friend became overwhelmed with ecstasy. Text 15. It was now late in the afternoon, and Lord Krishna, accompanied by Balaram, turned the cowherd boys back toward home, playing his flute in a special way. Krishna returned to the cowherd boys, the cowherd village, in the company of his cowherd friends who chanted his words. Text number 16. The young gopis took the greatest pleasure in seeing Govinda come home, since for them, even a month without his association seemed like 100 ages. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. After saving the cowherd boys from the blazing forest fire, Krishna saved the cowherd girls from the blazing fire of separation from him. The gopis, headed by Srimati Radharani, have the greatest love for Krishna, and even a single moment's separation from him seems like millions of years to them. The gopis are the greatest devotees of God, and their specific pastimes with Krishna will be described later in this work. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 19th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Swallowing of Forest Fire. Now we're going to chapter 20, the rainy season and autumn in Vrindavan. Some relief here. To enhance the description of Lord Krishna's past, Sri Sukadeva Goswami described in this chapter the beauty of Vrindavan during autumn and the rainy season. In the course of his presentation, he gives various charming instructions in metaphorical terms. Text number 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, to the ladies of Vrindavana, the cowherd boys then related in full detail Krishna's and Balarama's wonderful activities of delivering them from the forest fire and killing the demon Pralamba. That's wonderful. Text number 2. The elder cowherd men and ladies were amazed to hear this account, and they concluded that Krishna and Balarama must be exalted demigods who had appeared in Vrindavan. Text number 3. Then the rainy season began, giving life and sustenance to all living beings. The sky began to rumble with thunder, and lightning flashed on the horizon. Text number 4. The sky was then covered by dense blue clouds, accompanied by lightning and thunder. Thus, the sky and its natural illumination were covered in the same way that the spirit soul is covered by the 3 modes of material nature. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lightning is compared to the mode of goodness, thunder to the mode of passion, and clouds to the mode of ignorance. Thus, the cloudy sky at the onset of the rainy season is analogous to the pure spirit soul when he becomes disturbed by the modes of nature. For at that time he is covered, and his original brilliant nature is only dimly reflected through the haze of the material qualities. Text number 5. With its rays, the sun had for 8 months drunk up the earth's wealth in the form of water. Now that the proper time had arrived, the sun began releasing this accumulated wealth. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Acharyas compare the sun evaporating the earth's wealth of water to a king's collecting taxes. In chapter 20 of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada explains this analogy as follows. Clouds are accumulated water drawn from the land by the sunshine. Continually, for 8 months, the sun evaporates all kinds of water from the surface of the globe. And this water is accumulated in the shape of clouds, which are distributed as water when there is need. Similarly, a government exacts various taxes from the citizens, which the citizens are able to pay by their different material activities. Agriculture, trade, and industry. Thus, the government can also exact taxes in the form of income tax and sales tax. This is compared to the sun drawing water from the earth. When there is again a need of water on the surface of the globe, the same sunshine converts the water into clouds and distributes it all over the globe. Similarly, the taxes collected by the government must be must be distributed to the people as educational work, public work, sanitation work, and so on. This is very essential for a good government. The government should not simply exact taxes for useless squandering. The tax collection should be utilized for the public welfare of the state. Text 6. Flashing with lightning, great clouds were shaken and swept about by fierce winds, just like the merciful persons. The clouds gave their lives for the pleasure of this world. Purport. Just as great, compassionate personalities sometimes give their lives or wealth for the happiness of the society. The rain clouds poured down their rain upon the parched earth. Although the clouds were thus dissipated, they freely provided rainfall for the happiness of the earth. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada commented as follows on this verse. During the rainy season, there are strong winds blustering all over the country and carrying clouds from one place to another to distribute water. When water is urgently needed after the summer season, the clouds are just like a rich man who, in times of need, distributes his money, even by exhausting his whole treasury. So the clouds exhaust themselves by distributing water all over the surface of the globe. When Maharaj Dasarata, the father of Lord Ramachandra, used to fight with his enemies, it was said that he approached them just like a farmer, uprooting unnecessary plants and trees. And when there was need of giving charity, he used to distribute money exactly as the cloud distributes rain. The distribution of rain by clouds is so sumptuous that it is compared to the distribution of wealth by a great, munificent person. The cloud's downpour is so sufficient that the rains even fall on rocks and hills and on the oceans and seas where there is no need for water. A cloud is like a charitable person who opens his treasury for distribution and does not discriminate whether the charity is needed or not. He gives in charity open-handedly. Metaphorically speaking, the lightning rain clouds is the light by which they see the distressed condition of the earth, and the blowing winds are their heavy breathing, such as that found in a distressed person. Distressed to see the condition of the earth, the clouds tremble in the wind like a compassionate person. Thus they pour down their rain. Text number 7. The earth had been emaciated by summer heat, but she became fully nourished again when moistened by the God of rain. Thus, the earth was like a person whose body has been emaciated by austerities. undergone for a material purpose, but who again becomes fully nourished when he achieves the fruit of those austerities. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse as follows. Before the rainfall, the whole surface of the globe became almost depleted of all kinds of energies and appears very lean. After the rain, the whole surface of the earth became green with vegetation and appears very healthy and strong. Here, a comparison is made to the person undergoing austerities for fulfillment of a material desire. The flourishing condition of the earth after a rainy season is compared to the fulfillment of material desires. Sometimes, when a country is subjugated by all undesirable government, persons and parties undergo severe penances and austerities to get control of the government, and when they attain control, they flourish by giving themselves generous salaries. This also is like the flourishing of the earth in the rainy season. Actually, one should undergo severe austerities and penances only to achieve spiritual happiness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that tapasya or austerities should be accepted only for realizing the Supreme Lord. By accepting austerity in devotional service, one regains his spiritual life, and as soon as one regains his spiritual life, he enjoys unlimited spiritual bliss. But if someone undertakes austerities and penances for some material gain, then, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the results are temporary and are desired only by persons of less intelligence. Text number 8. In the evening twilight, during the rainy season, the darkness allowed the glowworms, but not the stars, to shine forth. Just as in the age of Kali, the predominance of sinful activities allows atheistic doctrines to overshadow the true knowledge of the Vedas. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada comments as follows. During the rainy season, in the evening, there are many glowworms visible about the tops of trees, hither and thither, and they glitter just like lights. But the luminaries of the sky, the stars and the moon, are not visible. Similarly, in the age of Kali, persons who are atheists or miscreants become very prominently visible, whereas persons who are actually following the Vedic principles for spiritual emancipation are practically obscure. This age, Kali Yuga, is compared to the cloudy season of the living entities. In this age, real knowledge is covered by the influence of the material advancement of civilization. The cheap mental speculators, atheists, and manufacturers of so-called religious principles become prominent, like the glowworms, whereas persons strictly following the Vedic principles or scriptural injunctions become covered by the clouds of this age. People should learn to take advantage of the actual luminaries of the sky, the sun, moon, and stars, instead of the glowworms light. Actually, the glowworms cannot give any light in the darkness of night. As clouds sometimes clear even in the rainy season, and the moon and stars and sun become visible. So even in this Krishna, in this Kali Yuga, there are sometimes advantages. The Vedic movement of Lord Chaitanya, the distribution of the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is understood in this way. People seriously anxious to find real life should take advantage of this movement instead of looking toward the so-called light of mental speculators and atheists. Okay, there you go. Text number 9. The frogs who had all along been lying silent suddenly began to croaking when they heard of the rumbling of the rain clouds, in the same way that Brahmana students who perform their morning duties in silence begin reciting their lessons when called by their teacher. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada comments, after the first rainfall, when there is a thundering sound in the clouds, all the frogs begin to croak, like students suddenly engaged in reading their studies. Students are generally supposed to rise early in the morning. They do not usually arise of their own account. However, but only when there is a bell sounded in the temple or in the cultural institution. By the order of the spiritual master, they immediately rise, and after finishing their morning duties, they sit down to study the Vedas or chant Vedic mantras. Similarly, everyone is sleeping in the darkness of Kali Yuga. But when there is a great acharya, by his calling only everyone takes to the study of the Vedas to acquire actual knowledge. Harivilas. Text 10. When the advent of the rainy season, the insignificant streams, which had become dry, began to swell and went straight from their proper courses, like the body, property, and money of a man controlled by the urges of his sense. Purport. Srila Prabhupada comments. During the rainy season, many small ponds, lakes, and rivulets become filled with water. Otherwise, the rest of the year, they remain dry. Okay. Similarly, materialistic persons are dry, but sometimes when they are in a so called opulent position, with a home or children or a little bank, they appear to be flourishing, but immediately afterwards they become dry again, like the small rivulets and ponds. The poet Harivilas said that in the society of friends, family, children, wife, and so on, there is certain some pleasure, but that pleasure is compared to a drop of water in the desert. Everyone is hankering after happiness, just as in the desert, everyone is hankering after water. If in the desert there is a drop of water, it may, of course, excuse me, it may, of course, be said that the water is there, but the benefit from that drop of water is very insignificant. In our materialistic way of life, which is just like a desert, we are hankering after an ocean of happiness. But in the form of society, friends, and mundane love, we are getting no more than a drop of water. Our satisfaction is never achieved in the small rivulets, lakes, and ponds are never filled with water in the dry season. Text 11. The newly grown grass made the earth emerald green. The Indragopa insects added a reddish hue, and white mushrooms added further color and circles of shade. Thus the earth appeared like a person who has suddenly become rich. Srila Sridhara Swami comments that the word Rinam indicates men of the royal order. Thus, the colorful display of dark green fields decorated with bright red insects and white mushroom umbrellas can be compared to a royal parade displacing the military strength of a king. Text number 12. When their wealth of grains, the fields gave joy to the farmers, but those fields created remorse in the hearts of those who were too proud to engage in farming and who failed and to understand how everything is under the control of the Supreme. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is common for people living in large cities to become miserable and disgusted when there is ample rainfall. They do not understand or have forgotten that the rain is nourishing the crops. Excuse me. understand or have forgotten that the rain is nourishing the crops they will eat. Although they certainly enjoy eating, they do not appreciate that with the rain, the Supreme Lord is feeding not only human beings, but also plants. Plants, animals, and the earth itself. Modern, sophisticated people often look down their noses at those engaged in agricultural work. In fact, in American slang, a simple, unintelligent person is sometimes called a farmer. There are also government agencies that restrict agricultural production because certain capitalists fear the effect on market prices. Because of various artificial and manipulative practices in modern governments, we find widespread food shortages throughout the world. Even in the United States, among the poverty stricken, and at the same time, we find the government's paying farmers not to plant crops. Sometimes these governments throw huge amounts of food into the ocean. Thus, the administration of the arrogant and ignorant, those who are too proud to obey the laws of God or too ignorant to recognize them, will always cause frustration among the people, whereas a God conscious government will provide abundance and happiness for all. Text 13. As all the creatures of the land and water took advantage of the newly fallen rainwater, their forms became attractive and pleasing, just as a devotee becomes beautiful by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord. Sorry. Srila Prabhupada comments as follows. We have practical experience of this with our students in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Before becoming students, they were dirty looking, although they had naturally beautiful personal features, but due to having no information of Krishna consciousness, they appeared very dirty and wretched. Since they have taken to Krishna consciousness, their health has improved. And by following the rules and regulations, their bodily luster has increased. When they are dressed with saffron colored cloth and tilaka on their foreheads, and beads in their hands and on their necks, they look exactly as if they have come directly from Vaikuntha. Text 14. Where the rivers joined the ocean, it became agitated, its waves blown about by the wind, just as the mind of an immature yogi becomes agitated because he is still tainted by lust and attached to the objects of sense gratification. Text 15. Just as devotees whose minds are absorbed in the personality of Godhead remain peaceful, even when attacked by all sorts of dangers, the mountains in the rainy season were not at all disturbed by the repeated striking of the rain-bearing clouds.
You want, you want to put a pause?
We should,
What?
time is also up, Maharaj. I think you're coughing.
Yeah.
We should stop.
Okay, well, that's text 15. We'll stop right there. And are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? Okay, all glories to Sridhara Prabhupada. Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama.
Rama.